sure I'm sure many of you already have your own own reasons why money mattered, but money started mattering to me very early. And there were a few reasons. You know, growing up, I was raised by a single mom, and you know, a really big family. But I couldn't help but to notice difficult choices that she had to make. And obviously, as a kid, I didn't quite understand that. I recalled, I don't know, I'm dating myself here, but some of you may know back in the day, Nikes weren't the shoes of choice, at least not for me. I wanted some Keds, which was like these little white loafers with a little blue sign at the back of them. And I remember begging my mom to get me some. And we went to our local shopping store, which happened to be the Family Dollar store, and she did get me some white canvas shoes. But guess what? They didn't have that blue tag on the bottom, and so I didn't quite understand that, you know. But it was a money matter. She didn't have it, and it's not because she didn't want to get it for me. It's just she didn't have it. But in the same vein, and this is just a little personal story, I observed my grandfather, who lived nearby, who had only completed a third grade education. But he was, I would say, in our small community, he was the local lender. And I didn't quite understand that either. I was always wondering, well, how is it that he didn't advance his education as much as as much as people that I knew and the grown people that were coming to him? And I think it was because, not I think, I knew it was because he focus on some money matters very early on. And so he didn't go and get degrees like I have, but he lived a life that taught him how to save, and it put him in a position where he could lend to others. So I've always been intrigued by money, how you make it, how you grow it, how you store it, all of that. And so in my spare time, I just study about it. And I've learned a few things that Hobson and I have put into practice and have leveraged as parents, as a couple, as African Americans. And when our organization, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, maybe it's about 3 years ago, decided to partner with a nonprofit organization called dFree that's focused on educating the African American community around wealth matters. I raised my hand very early to say, hey, I'd love to lead that for our chapter. And that is what I'm going to start talking about today. But I am going to sprinkle in a little bit of my personal experience and my story. So with that in mind, let's just get started. Like I said, there are a few things on my screen there. Okay, let's see. That's not moving. Okay, that's not. Let's see. Okay, so sorry about that. So dFree, like I said, is a nonprofit organization that's focused on helping the African American community, helping them lead them to financial freedom. And so as I talk about this, I'd love it if a few of you would just drop in the chat. We'll definitely come back to this, what financial freedom means to you. And I'll share with you what it means to me in a few minutes. But I'd love to hear what some of you think about financial freedom. And the way that dFree does this is through a variety of, and all of it's online, and all of it is free. And so, you know, maybe afterwards, I'm going to give you a QR code, of course, in the end that you can click on and get more information about the organization. But I like it because, one, is free. Two, you can do it at your own pace. It's very interactive. You know, they have videos, they have reading, they have a number of different training tools, all with the goal of helping our community build wealth. And it started out focused on, it's called dFree. It started out focused on reducing debt as the primary focus of the organization. But as it grew, and he started out in his church, you know, just trying to get out of debt himself. And then he was helping people in church get out of debt. And before he knew it, he had a thing going. And so he started working with other community organizations like sororities and fraternities. And like I said, we partnered with them about 3 years ago specifically to join the $1 Billion Challenge, which is basically, you know, to sign up to say, hey, we're gonna take part in reducing debt as well. But it's not just about reducing debt. It's also about savings, investing, and protecting your wealth, which are all personal finance matters and all foundational in building wealth, in my opinion. And their flagship program is the 12 Steps of Freedom. And those steps focus on this continuum that I have here, that is, one, educating ourselves, because, I believe knowledge is power, and I believe when we know better, we do better. We may not do better right away, but we will do better if we're exposed to it. And a lot of times it's about exposure. And so it's also about building savings, building emergency funds, which is saving, building wealth, which is around investing, and then wealth protection, which is around insurance, and then leaving a legacy, which is around estate planning. So as many of you know, I could probably spend the hour talking about just one of those. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try my best to cover all four of these. With, like I said, with a little sprinkling of Dawnita-isms throughout. And so as I talk, I definitely feel free to ask questions. Let me know your thoughts on things. If I need to pause, I'll lean on Brother Andre to help me out there. But that's the continuum. And so as you see, it is a program. And so the steps to financial freedom, once again, it is 12 steps, but the steps are focused on these things. It's basically, getting started. The first step in anything, right, is recognizing where you are, he calls it recognizing your mess, but the point is recognizing where you are. The second step is getting control. The third step is getting ahead, and he covers a variety of things in that. And I keep saying he, but the program does, because it's not him. It's a strong program, and they partner with a number of financial institutions to deliver the content and the tools and the resources. So like I said, if you have a chance, or I really hope that you're motivated after this to at least check it out. And then last but not least, the program focuses on giving back. And once again, another Dawnita-ism, and it's probably not a Dawnita-ism, but one that I believe in, is where much is given, much is required. And when we know better, I think we do better. And when we know better, I think we should share what we know. And so that's a little bit of what I'm trying to do here tonight. So once again, with that, I'm just going to get started here. Let's see, got to remember how to advance my screen, because that's not working like I want it to. And so, like I said, I love numbers. So I'm gonna talk to you a little bit, just some statistics, really. So I found this very surprising, and so I'll ask you to let me know what you think. But basically, a 2023 survey conducted by payroll.org highlighted that 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And that's a 6% increase over the previous year. Now, we all know that, inflation has definitely played a role in the lives of many Americans in the last 2 years, because the cost of things went up. So I wasn't surprised that it was maybe 78% in 2023. So I did some research and, just to see, well, is that consistent? And it was not 78%, but it was somewhere around 71% in 2019. And that was before COVID. So what that said to me was, gosh, that's much higher than what I would have thought. And so I'd love to hear, and once again, I'm wondering if that's a surprise to many of you, or what do you think that is? So if you have some thoughts on that, once again, let me know. Why would you think that people are living paycheck to paycheck? And paycheck to paycheck, as defined by payroll.org, is, basically at the end of the month, they have nothing left over. I have some thoughts around that, but I want to know what you think. Another very interesting thing I thought, as I was, just reading and just information that I've gathered, because I love reading, I just love reading and I love learning. And this is a subject that I'm interested in. But, that survey went on to look at, well, because I was originally thinking, well, maybe that's people who are not making a lot of money. Well, guess what? People making over 100,000 were only saving, roughly 40% of them were saying that they were also living paycheck to paycheck. So to me, what that meant is that high income doesn't always equate to high net worth, right? It doesn't. We all know people who make a lot of money but they spend a lot of money. And so the conclusion is that most people spend a significant portion of the income. And I think that we do that primarily because maybe we don't know better, or there's this maybe we don't know better. Maybe we think, hey, I deserve it. There could be a number of reasons why we do it, but it is surprising to me that like I said, it was surprising to me that the number was as high as it is. And so it lends itself to what are some of the drivers of that. And I know some of you may say, well, there are wealth disparities. On average, people are making maybe less money, but that's really not the case. People on average are making more money. Maybe people on average, the cost of things are definitely up, but on average, people are definitely making more than they have 20 years ago, 10 years ago, but they are definitely saving less. And so I believe that is a result of their spending habits. And so with that in mind, a few things that I think are important, and as I go throughout this, I'll kind of talk about money nuggets, but I think it's important to identify what I call your money habits. And usually your money habits, which drives your money behavior, come from maybe your money stories. How were you raised? How were the people around you? What did they think about money? How did they spend money? Or your community? Because whether we know it or not, just like I said, watching my mom, observing my grandfather, there were things that whether they were talking to me or not, I was picking up stories from that. And those stories shaped my life. Now, they shaped my life, I'd say, ultimately in a positive way, because it motivated me I wanted to be in a position where I had choices. I wanted to be in a position where when my bills came and I opened them, I paid them. I wanted to be in a position to where I would save, that I could finance my kids' education without stress. I didn't want to be the people who were borrowing money from my grandfather, but then they'd come and say, well, hey, I can't repay you. And once again, he was smart enough to charge them, basically a 25% interest rate. So their bill just kept getting higher, and I didn't quite understand why they kept doing that. So I was learning my own lessons as a kid. And so I think it's very important to identify your money habits, whether that's not paying attention to our spending leaks, overspending, or unplanned spending. And so the other one is own your stuff, and we talk about we'll talk about how do you own your stuff. A lot of times we just don't want to look at it. We just kind of, I've talked with people or advised people who, they just kind of admit, I don't know what they think, but they don't want to deal with that reality. So maybe they don't open the bills, maybe they don't look at that account because they just don't want to see it. But as we all know, that doesn't solve the problem. That doesn't get us to where we need to get to. And my last little money nugget on this is really related to having a goal. If I didn't want choices, and then when in my life, and then when Hobson and I got married, the choices we wanted to have for our kids and their education, the way we want to retire, what we want to leave for them when we transition. If I didn't have those goals, hey, I might overspend too, because if you don't have a plan, as I say, that if you don't know what you're doing with your money, you won't do much with it. And that is the truth. You just won't. You'll spend it, you'll eat it up, you will eat it up, you will play it up, you will do all sorts of things, and you just wonder, well, where is it? And so I think it's very, very important, once again, when I talk to people, a lot of times people reach out to me and they want to know about what I call the sexy parts of money, and that's the investment parts, the Nvidias of the world, the Teslas of the world, the cryptocurrency of the world. Well, that's all fun potentially, but I think before we can get to that, I think we should have a foundation in money health, and money health to me is making sure we know what our money is doing at all points in times. And so this is one of the reasons why I kind of start right here. So Andre, tell me, how did people define financial freedom? Just give me a couple.
Well, we have financial freedom to me is being debt free and having enough money saved up for emergencies and retirement.
Okay,
Yep, we had someone say financial freedom to me is being able to retire with money to spare. And then,
nice.
yeah, then I had another one. Let's see. Oh, answer to your question about why do you think the disparity is there with the income now? And
Hmm.
some people said people are not saving properly and living beyond their means, living beyond means, spending too much. And then some said the house costs raise and
Hmm.
daily needs have increased. So there's a lot of different factors there in all those questions that you asked.
And all of those are very, very good points. And and I like those answers, being debt free 100%. We're going to get to that because and I like the word financial freedom. There are kind of two financial concepts out there, many financial concepts out there, but people go back and forth between financial freedom, I do sometimes, and financial independence. And financial freedom is I like that word because it is the freedom to live the life you want without stress. Now, the life you want may be different than the life I want. The life you want may require $200,000. The life I want may require $1 million. But the point is, you living the life you want without stress. When you get those bills, you open them. When you want to do something, you do it. Now, obviously, you got to take steps to get there. And then financial independence is the ability to live the life you want without working. And that's an ideal, well, for me, that's an ideal state. But that definitely takes this foundational stuff. And it takes that wealth building that we're going to get to. It takes that protecting our assets that we want to get to. And that's a little longer out. But it's definitely aspirational and we can all definitely get to it. But I love financial freedom because it is doing what we want to do, living the life that we want to live. And once again, that everybody defines that differently. All of us are motivated differently. All of us don't have to have a 7,000 square foot house. Some of us may live, in a 900 square foot, but hey, all my bills are paid on time. I have money to save. I travel. I do what I want to do. And I say, hey, that's an element of financial freedom. And that's a good thing. So, so that's, thank you for that feedback. That I think you're spot on there. So, where are we here? So this is, I don't have to do it this way, I guess. So once again, you gotta love technology. You just have to love it. But this is about choices, and getting control to me is all about the choices that we make. And Hobson and I, now that we're empty nesters, have all type of really cool conversations about the power, just about all sorts of things. The kids, of course, but we have other conversations just about how we've grown, since we met, almost 28 years ago. And or that's how long we've been married. But we have conversations about all sorts of things. And one of them that comes up often is around the power of our choice. And I dropped this in there because it is we, according to some folks, according to some research, we make roughly 35,000 choices a day. That's crazy to me. And maybe you knew that, and it kind of makes sense, whether that's what we're going to eat, what we're going to wear, what we're going to say, who we're going to say it to, where we're going to work, what route we're going to take to school or to work. But we're constantly making choices. And so included in those choices, of course, is how we spend our money. So we're definitely making choices around how we spend our money. And so as you think about how we spend our money as a community, we spend, and this was amazing to me. Right now, this number is about 1.6 trillion, but the spending power of the African American community is roughly 835 billion, which is amazing. And so when I was reading this article or saw that, you would think that, they were, I was impressed. I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. Now, that's not that I think that represents about, and somebody may correct me, but it's definitely less than 10% of GDP. And I want to say maybe that's around 2 or 3%. But the point is, that's a significant amount of money, and it grows by 5% each year. So that means we are making some money. However, but that article that I was reading, and this is what saddened me a little bit, the purpose of that data that was being shared was it was being sent to marketing firms, and it was used by a marketing company to talk about how do we market to the African American community, because the African American community has this thing called the cool factor where, and we know that, right? We got a little swag, where people follow us. And so if we can get the African American community on board with something, then we can get other people on board with it. And I thought, dang, I mean, that's kind of cool. But I was hoping they were marketing to us about how do we save our money? How do we invest our money? How do we grow our money? But this was an article from Forbes. No, it was about how do we spend our money. And so I thought that was interesting. Roughly 60 million of the 385 million that's spent on watches is spent by African Americans. That's around 16%. And we make up about 13% of the population. Roughly 22% of fragrance spending is done by African Americans. And once again, we make up about 13% of the population. So we are making some money and we're spending some money. The question is, are we saving money and growing money? And then last but not least, and this is a data set that says, no, we're not. And that is that we have on average, and I actually was a little surprised at this and thought that was kind of high, not bad. We save roughly 30,000, or we have roughly 30,000 saved in retirement. Whereas our white counterparts have on average 150,000 saved for retirement. And so as we all know, if we're blessed to be here, we're going to get older and we're going to need some money. And so thinking about that today is very important. And so in essence, we do have a choice on how we're going to spend our money. And so a couple of nuggets on how to be in control. I talked about the importance of savings. This is that first money matters about how do you calculate your excess, and that is all about budgeting, identifying your income, both your current and your potential. We all have skill sets, that we can leverage for a side hustle to increase our income if we don't have enough to save. But the other part of the equation is, we can reduce our expenses. And so this is budgeting, and budgeting is something that most people that I talk to really don't like to do. And I raise my hand, it's not the most fun thing to do, but the good news is you don't have to budget every day, every week, every month, forever. I think once you get into a habit, they say that after 21 days, you develop habits and they stick with it. At least that's for exercising. So maybe you say after 90 days of being on a budget, it just becomes natural. You just kind of start knowing where your money is. But every now and again, you do have to take a look at that budget again because things kind of get out of whack. But you can't start saving or even investing or even, you can't start, you can't get to those financial goals that we're going to talk about and wealth, financial freedom and wealth without knowing how much you have left over and without having something left over. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. The other one is around managing our debt, reducing our high interest rate debt. Like I said, what I do for a living is lend money. And so I'm not a anti-debt person, but I'm an anti-high interest rate debt person. High interest rate debt is usually your credit card debts, your store credit. Well, it's usually credit cards. Sometimes it's vehicle debt if your credit score isn't strong enough. But I think it is very, very important to manage our debt. And do you know? And then let me know if you're surprised at this. But African Americans actually have less debt than our white counterparts. I didn't know that. Maybe some of you knew that, but I didn't know that. However, African American debt payments are higher than our counterparts. Why do you think that is? Help me out here. Give me something.
Credit score.
Yes, Mr. McCain. That's a good answer. Thank you. That is one of them. That is definitely one of them. The credit score. That's the big piece of it. It is that credit score drives your interest rate. And so they're paying a higher interest rate. And so we that's something, once again, sometimes you're in situations where you can't avoid it. You need debt. But prioritizing reducing that is just very, very important. So
Yeah, Soror McCain had two other comments there:
yes.
higher interest rates, and then credit score and predatory lending. Lack of
Oh, look
lack of
at that.
financial.
Predatory lending. How
Yes.
about that? Now, 100% higher interest rate and predatory lending, I think, is related to higher interest rates, because I would think, that the predatory piece of that is they're taking advantage of the fact that maybe you don't know that you could possibly get a higher interest rate. So, but those are two very good points. And so that's, once again, back to the way I started. I think knowledge is power, whether it's about your savings or whether it's about your debt or whether it's about your credit. Knowledge is power, and it's powerful as you are working to build your financial security, your financial freedom, your financial independence. And there's no shortage of information out there, friends and family. There is, like I said, I enjoy reading. I enjoy this space. I've benefited, Hobson and I, I'd say thankfully we're equally yoked in that we prioritize a lot of this. And so we try to teach our kids, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. We definitely made our share of mistakes. But the point is, we were interested in how can we be better at this. And so we started educating ourselves, listening to different things, reading, and it makes a difference. And so that's just, those two are very important. Knowing how much excess you have, owning that, because you got to start somewhere, reducing your higher interest rate debt, and then automating. I'm such a big fan of automation. Hobson and I think we started our first investment when our oldest Hobby, who's also blue and white, and Hobby's 27. We started investing with him when he was about 6 months old. And so I think it might have been $25 in a mutual fund or something like that. I didn't know what a mutual fund was, but somebody somewhere mentioned it to me. So I plopped 25 in it, and we automated it. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And at some point we increased it to 50 and then to 100, and we kept increasing it. And so we decided, well, every time we have a kid, we'd start them a mutual fund, and then we eventually moved to 529, which we'll talk about a little later. But the point is back to having a goal, knowing that we wanted a slightly better life for our kids than what we had. And as I tell my kids now, I do this because I want my grandkids to have a better life. And so my hope is that my kids will focus on their grandkids. And that's how we build that family legacy of wealth, because in my opinion, I did my part for my kids. I want them to do their part for their kids, and then we can keep this thing going. Now, we're going to see, I don't know if my kids are out there, but the point is, that is where I want to get to. If I'm doing my part and I'm teaching them, they should do their part. And so we can each advance the next generation. So last thing, really near and dear to my heart, because like I said, I'm in banking, and I'm here to tell you, credit matters. Credit matters. I remember, how many of you, when I went to school at, I don't know if you can see this, went to FAMU. Yep, I'm a Rattler, love it. And when I was at FAM, it was very, very common to have, there were these tables, and there were pamphlets all around, and where you can get a credit card. And I equated having a credit card with kind of being borderline rich. I didn't, this is lack of knowledge, but if you got a credit card, you're rich. So I had friends or associates and people, they had them. And it was like, girl, it's easy to get. And so I was like, I really don't need anything. I didn't have a plan, but I was thinking, hey, I'm gonna get a credit card. So I got a credit card. Actually, I got 3 of them. And I think maybe the total was $750. Well, once again, back then in the 90s, I was rich. I was in college, so I was rich. You couldn't tell me anything. Now, I didn't go out because I was smart enough not to go out and spend all of that. But I was spending. If I wanted to go out to eat, I went out to eat. If I wanted to buy something, I bought something. Now, and you know what? I paid my bill because it was maybe like $15 until I couldn't pay my bill. Guess what? No one told me, Dawnita, that interest rate on that thing is about 23%. I didn't look at that. I didn't think about that. I just thought, I got money. I got a card. And so I would pay on it when I could. And I thought that was reasonable. I skipped payments. I didn't think that was such a big thing. I just didn't. And so I didn't know the impact of that. You know, the next payment came. Now I also started noticing, because at some point I maxed it out, that 750 was turning to 800, and I didn't quite understand it. I'm making payments, but it's not going anywhere, you know. And so that was not a great money decision. And so then I took it a step further. I had a roommate who had this brilliant idea that we should have nice furniture as juniors in college. And she, you know, convinced me to go to the furniture store with her. And I said, I don't think we need any furniture. I think we're good. You know, I was fine with the folded chairs. And but at that time, you know, the salesman, they were walking around, and she had decided she was going to get this 5-piece set for 5 pieces. And it's a love seat, a couch, and a love seat, a couch, and 2 end tables. And a lamp, I think, or something like that. And it was $300. I know y'all are like, what in the world you get a whole set for $300? We got it for $300, and I didn't want furniture, so I was just sitting doing whatever. I wasn't on the phone because we didn't have it there, but I was over in the corner just doing what I was doing. And at some point, she came over to me and said, "No," the salesperson was like, "What about your friend?" And she said, "Well, Dawnita, will you let him run your credit?" And I was thinking, well, no, I don't want any furniture. I don't want this. And so he was like, well, no, she's going to have it. She's going to pay for it. And once again, I didn't know. Now, my credit wasn't great, but it was better than her credit. And so we walked out of that place, you know, with the 5 pieces. Well, they delivered it. And, you know, in my mind, she had the debt. So I didn't think anything of it. I'm, once again, lack of knowledge, going about my business, not paying my credit card bill consistently. And now I just signed on for some debt from somebody. Well, fast forward, you know, maybe after our lease term was up, she and I decided to go our separate ways, and she took that furniture with her, all 5 pieces, didn't leave me not one. And but that was fine because it was her furniture. It wasn't mine. And I was moving along. I was probably got to my senior year, about midway through my senior year. I was trying to get, I went to the bank to open up my bank account, and they wouldn't open it for me. And I didn't understand it. I had money, I was making some money. So I didn't understand it. Well, you know why they didn't open that checking account for me? Because my credit was bad. Y'all, my credit was bad, and did not have a 7 handle on it. And I didn't understand it. And you know why it was bad? One, I didn't make my payments on time on that credit card, but guess what? My friend stopped paying on that 5-piece furniture set. And it had gone to collections. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, guess what? I couldn't get her on the phone. We are not even going to get into all that. The point is, I had to pay $300 for that little. I can see that set even to the day. But the point is, from then on, I have been fanatical about my credit. It doesn't take anything but a bad experience to make you say, okay, we are not doing that again. And so anyway, back on track here, because I know we only have a little bit of time. It's very important to manage the credit drivers. And those are the ones that I listed there. There are 35% of your credit score is your utilization. 35% is your payment history. 30% is your utilization. 10% is driven by your credit history. 15%, I'm looking at it wrong. 15% is your credit history. 10% is credit inquiries. And then 10% is your credit mix. So the point is 65% of that credit score is how you pay your bills. I heard as a chapter rereading this book called Budgetnista, or, we got this little save or sorrow things going on. And I love the way she said it. Your credit score is not how you manage your money. Your credit score is how you manage other people's money. And so 65% of that score is how you are managing other people's money. Are you paying them on time? And how are you utilizing it? So anyway, those are a few nuggets on getting control. And so now let's get to probably the piece that most people like to talk about. And I like talking about it too. And that is, how do we grow our money? That is very, very important because it is, if you're just saving, and putting it under your mattress, of course, you're not making anything. If you're saving and putting it with a traditional savings account, you're not making anything either. Today, the traditional checking account is returning less than 1%. I think it's like 0.3 or something like that if you on the high end. Now you can get a high yield savings account. I think they were as high as a little 5.5, and now they're somewhere between 4.5. But a lot of those require a minimum amount of dollars, which I'm a big fan of them, you know, for sure. But you know, a high yield savings account. But if you're keeping your money with a traditional bank, you're not making any money on it. And since we just talked about the importance of having goals, it's important that we make our money work for us, and that's what this is about. And so, just a few things I want to get into how to make our money work. And so, many of you, you know, may or may not be involved in the stock market, may or may not know some of this lingo. So I'm gonna back up just a little bit. There are three primary stock indices, and one is Standard & Poor's. This often referred to as S&P, and that is an index that represents basically the top 500 most, you know, kind of top 500 companies, public companies in the U.S. by market cap. Market cap is your price times your volume. The next one is the Dow Jones Industrial, and that is comprised of 30 stocks. And those are usually your just household names. Some of the most influential companies in the United States is some of our best, what we call blue chip companies that are tried and true. And they've been around for years. They've stood the test of time, and a lot of them pay consistent dividends. That's one of the things that I like about the Dow stock. The S&P stocks are, you know, your high flyers. They're high growth stocks, but not as high as those that you may see. Well, I shouldn't say always, on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is the third indices, and a large portion of what's on the NASDAQ are healthcare stocks, technology stocks, and financial institutions, insurance, transportation. So they cover a broad range of stocks on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ also includes both large and small firms, whereas those other two, most of those firms are large. They just are different. They kind of have different, they're large, but they're large in different ways and for different reasons. But it holds, I'd say, it holds more speculative stocks because they're smaller, you know, and smaller companies tend to have a lot more volatility. And so the average return, I just told you what the average return is on your traditional savings account, is less than 0.5%. Well, the average return of the S&P over the last 50 years, I think it started in 57 or 50 something, it has consistently, on average, returned 10%. You know, 10, some years more. The last 10 years, it was 12.3. And I was listening to CNBC a few days ago as I was going into work, and I could have sworn they said in the last 10 months, the S&P has returned north of 20%. And I'm not surprised about that. I mean, stocks have done very, 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 very well. 2023 has been a really, really strong year for the market. Now, it goes up and down, but on average, the reason I'm giving you those numbers is because I want you to compare that return to, like I said, a traditional savings. And if we want to build wealth, I can't get there. I'm budgeting my money. I'm saving, you know. I have a little some money set aside for my emergencies. That's important. That's an important part of savings. Well, now I got to figure out how to make my money work. How do I make it grow so that I can reach my long-term goals, whether that's my retirement, whether that's my kids' education, whether that is my kids' legacy. And the only way I'm going to get there, in my opinion, is I've got to invest. So investing is very, very important.
And so,
And
McCain, I did have a couple
I'm
of
going to
questions for
pause.
you. Yep. All right. And the first question I have for you is, are there differences between traditional banks and credit unions?
There are differences. You know, credit unions were well, I'd say today there are not as many differences as there used to be, but credit unions were traditionally formed to serve the community. To stay small. The primary difference to me, in terms, they both are deposit gatherers, they both provide loans, they both do home equity lines or mortgages. But traditional banks have bigger capabilities in that they may be able to give you bigger loans because they're getting more money. They may be able to help you find broader sources of capital because they have more money. And they may, more than likely, they probably have more locations. And there are people that say, now, once again, I'm a 20-something year banker, so I know, the industry gets plenty of negative, it gets plenty of negative press. And I'm not here to defend banking, but there are people that banking has worked for me. And like I said, I go back to when we educate ourselves, that's powerful. And it's not only powerful, it's power. And I'll leave it at that. But there are definitely people out there that believe credit unions cater to you a little more than banks. I think if you know what you're doing and you know how to do it, you can get what you need from either one of them. But that's my long-winded answer. But great question. Hopefully I answered that. Give me a few other, what else is out there, Andre?
Yep. And the next question is, so how do you choose which one to invest in? The S&P 500, Dow Jones, or NASDAQ? How do you choose which one to invest in?
Well, that's a great question. And I think that depends on your risk tolerance. And that depends on, that depends on your risk tolerance, and that depends on how you decide to invest. And I'm going to get to that in just a couple of seconds. One other thing that I just want to make sure I put out there is I just like it because it's a nice little sheet for you, and that's around the rule of 72. The rule of 72 says that if you divide 72 by the average expected yield, it'll tell you how long it'll take you to double your money. So 72, if the S&P is returning 10%, means that you'll double your money in roughly 7.2 years. If it's returning 15%, you'll double your money in 4.8 years. Once again, getting us to our goal. Keep in mind, though, if you put your money in a traditional savings earning 0.5, it'll take you 144 years to double that money. So it is in all of our best interests to have some money in the stock market. Now, I am not a financial advisor, so I need to put that asterisk out there. But I firmly believe, I've just told you the numbers. And so let me tell you, I'm going to answer that question that someone just asked, and it's a great question. But this is how I think you make that decision, in my opinion. I think you make that decision one of a few ways. There are a number of tools that are already out there so that you don't have to sit and decide which one of the indices should I be investing in. Because I think there's a question that comes before that. I think it is, what am I investing for? And what's my time horizon? And as you probably have heard, I'm a big fan of planning for retirement. So, and I like these tools that I list here because they're all tax advantage vehicles, meaning you either can invest pre-tax dollars or defer taxes on those dollars and defer paying taxes on those dollars when you take them out. That's those first three I have there. SELF is for self-employed individuals. And the last two are after-tax contributions, but they're tax-free disbursements. And so once again, we talked about when you make a return, it's already going to be cut by whatever inflation is, the spending, the power of your money or what you're able to spend, but you don't want it cut again by taxes. So I think it's in all of our best interest to invest as much as we possibly can towards our retirement. I'm not saying spend all of your extra savings in retirement, but like I said, if you plan on being here in retirement, and I want to be here, I think you should be investing for it so that you can live a certain way. And there are plenty of tools out there to encourage you to do that. And all of those funds that are right there are generally, a lot of them are managed. And that's what I'm going to get into. When you're deciding to invest, you have the choice between, am I going to manage the money, or am I going to let someone else manage the money for me? And if you're going to manage the money, which is your right, you have to do this thing I talk about in number 2. You got to assess your capacity for research, assess your capacity for, risk taking, assess your capacity for monitoring that, assess your capacity for move, because monitoring is important, so you move at the right time. Now, if that is you, I say go for it, because you're probably already doing this. But if that is not you and you prefer a slightly more turnkey approach where, you know what, I want to get some of that 10% return, but I really don't have the time, don't have the knowledge, and may not even have interest to do all the research that you like doing. I just want to get the return. And I trust that you're right about the returns. Well, then you have the mutual fund index options. And, this is where Hobson and I get to be a little bit different. We're different investors. His risk tolerance is through the roof. We went to Vegas with $100. He made 200 and got down to probably 10 and wanted, and he felt like he can get back to 200. I lost maybe 60. I had 40 and I was done. I was in a corner and he wanted my 40. I didn't give it to him. And we argued about it for the whole way back to Jersey. We were just getting started. But the point is, he's a risk taker. I'm not. I like my principal and I like to grow. Now, he likes his principal too, and he's made some really good money, but as high as stocks can go, they can also go low. So I tend to prefer managed funds. So I'm a mutual fund fan. But probably 10, maybe 15 years ago, index funds came on the scene. And maybe that's when I learned about them. Maybe they've been out there for longer than that. But index funds came on the scenes. And index funds are very similar to mutual funds. And all that means is you're investing your money with somebody else. And well, a mutual fund is you're investing your money with somebody else, so that you can get a piece of Tesla, a piece of, Coca-Cola, a piece of something else. And a fund manager is doing the investing for you. An index fund is you're also investing your money with someone else, but you're investing in one of those indices that I talked to you about. Basically, is automate a robo-advisor is what they call them, or a system, a robot, basically pulls all those 500 stocks that's in the S&P and they put it in a fund and you get to invest in that fund. And so to the extent that you're like, hey, I just want to do what the market is doing, an index fund is a great option. And index funds, because it's a robo and automatic fund, it's what they call passive investing. It's not as expensive as a mutual fund. So anyway, I'm going to pause. I can talk, as you can see, and see what questions are out there, just to see what questions are out there.
All right. This time we don't really have any other questions. Oh, I do have one. It says, does social media make us more at risk making videos of us not paying debt? So I'm assuming that this is a question about just if we're out. I guess I don't know if that person wants to come off mute to ask this question, but I don't know if that was enough clarification for you.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I don't know that I got that so well. Okay. So if they want to come off mute, maybe you said, is social media making us more what?
Try to make us more at risk by showing that we're not paying debt.
Yeah, come off mute and help me with that. Because
Right.
I don't know how that would be or why that would be the case.
Go ahead, Brother Harrell.
Okay, I'm saying like I guess more like a profiling type of situation.
Well, I think social media does that in general, whether it's with debt, whether it's with our spending habits, whether it is 100% social media profiles us. I mean, our habits. I mean, yeah, I'm sure, I can tell Hobson, I want to, I don't know, I want some Air Jordans. And next thing I know, I'm on Facebook scrolling and there are Air Jordans popping up on my news feed. So I do believe that social media makes us more susceptible to ads and people. I wouldn't say take advantage of us, but they definitely are putting it in our face a lot. And if that's what you mean, and but I don't know that they are pursuing you so much for debt, if I'm understanding your question right.
Yes, I guess it's more like people acting like they're not paying their bills, like boning off just to get hits and likes and like stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
well, I could see that. I guess people might do something like that. That, I'm
Oh,
that's a yeah. I guess if people want like clicks, they could, they could take that approach to get them for sure.
Because I say that I have dealt with this before. Well, I haven't dealt with it, but I've seen it before. In the military, I met somebody who was never met a black person before. So
They
all
never
he saw, huh?
they never met a black person before.
Correct. Never saw
Okay,
him in person until he came into the military. And
gotcha.
all he had to go off was what he saw on TV.
Oh, 100%. Well, yeah. Okay, I hear what you're saying. 100%.
Yes.
Yes, those type things. If your main source of information is one source, yes, it can put you at risk. 100%. Thank you for that. Thank you for that question
All right.
and clarifying.
Yeah,
I
thank you,
think
Brother Harrell. And we had a couple more, and we had some hands raised
yeah.
too. So we're Alliance. I definitely let you come on in, and I greeted you earlier. I think you were having some
Yes, thank
technical
you so
difficulties.
much. I appreciate that.
Oh, no
Technology was not my friend at that time, and I don't know why I decided just to reboot my whole computer, but here we were. And I do have to jump off, and I just wanted to obviously I wanted to kind of bring her out, and introduce our Tamius, who is amazing. As you can see, we have such a treasure at SOZ with Sora McCain as Artemius, and just so pleased to have her. She has won us several dFree awards with the state of Georgia, and just proud of her and the work she does. She knows financial literacy is near and dear to my heart, and I work with the middle schoolers and trying to get them going early and getting some terms and understanding about banking to them as early as possible, so they don't go to college like I did and get 3 credit cards and max them out and try to figure out what to do at that point as a result. So again, thank you for having her. Thank you for inviting us. And I hope that everyone enjoyed the conversation and get some nuggets for them to take home. I encourage everyone to take a look after you get off this line at all of your debt, total it up, put it in your face, get real with it, address it, deal with it, so you can become financially free.
Thank you, Sora. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Have a good night.
thanks for
All right,
joining us.
You too. All right, I do have a couple other questions. Are mutual funds similar to IRAs?
No,
No.
they are not. They a mutual fund is I'd say their purpose is different. An IRA can invest in a mutual fund. IRA is a retirement vehicle, and it can invest in a collection of stocks, which is very similar to a mutual fund. But I wouldn't say that it is a mutual fund. I'd say that the primary difference is an IRA was created and designed to encourage retirement savings. A mutual fund can be for your retirement, but it is also, can be used for any number of investment purposes. And it doesn't have any tax benefits, at least not tax protections like the ones that I mentioned on that last slide.
Okay. All right. And the next question said, hey, I'm a novice. How can we set up a mutual fund? And the part 2 of that is there was another person said they're a novice as well. How can they actually get started? Is there a website? Where should they go to invest their first dollars in an index fund?
Oh, awesome. Well, there are a number of funds out there. I'm going to give you at the end of this, and like I said, I'm going to just go to that. One of the things, and I'm going to come back to those questions. I just wanted to share the importance of protecting our money as well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't get into the appropriateness of insurance, whether that's property, health, disability, and the importance of creating a will, kind of a power of attorney and a health directive. Like I said, all of these subjects I could probably talk about for an hour by themselves, but I at least wanted to put this in front of you is because you don't want to do all this work to save money, make money, but then you don't protect that money because then, why did we do it? So I just wanted to put that in front of you. And then here's the link that I was trying to get to. This is what I would encourage. Once again, you don't have to do this, but I'm big on knowledge because I want you to be an informed, educated investor. You can definitely, I'm a big fan of Vanguard. I'm a big fan of is it T. Rowe Price? Who's the other one that we have? So Invesco. I'm a big fan of the big boys. Like I said, I like things that are tried and true. So I don't do too much risk taking. So I like fun companies that have been around. But Vanguard is a favorite because their fees are usually the lowest. And that's been proven time and time again. But you can invest it. There are thousands of mutual fund companies out there, but I've just given you a couple of them. But all you got to do, you can go in. They're going to have something called sign up, and you basically, it's almost like creating an online bank account, and you can start most of them do have minimums. Some of them have a minimum of 1,000, some have a minimum of 3,500, some of them have a minimum of more. But what I like about mutual funds is you can start with you can also start with small dollars. You may start with, I'm just going to invest $50 every month, but you got to set it up on some sort of recurring basis, back to that automation. And so you may say, I don't have 1,000. Well, that's fine. You can start with $100, but you will have to put it on some sort of automated you'd have to allow them to automate it so that they can build that over time, because they are going to try to get you to that minimum. But Vanguard is a favorite. I talk about them all the time. dFree, I give you the QR code here. I highly encourage you to take a look at that 12-step program. It's a really very friendly, interactive, light training session. And it's just easy to understand with some stories sprinkled throughout. It's a really, really good, easy, free. You don't have to sign up for anything. You just listen. And that dFree also has a number of companies that have partnered with them, which is kind of cool. It means these are companies that are also interested in helping to, address the financial wealth gap in the African-American community through savings, investing, and debt reduction. And so they have partnered. And so that's another resource that you can leverage to get started. Are there other questions out there?
There is. We have, sorry. Is it better to use pre-tax or post-tax funds to invest in a 401k?
Oh, 100% pre-tax. Because pre-tax means if you make $5,000 and you spend and you invest 10% in it, guess what? Not only have you put away $500 in a tax-deferred vehicle for your future, but the government is only going to tax you on $4,500 versus $5,000. So your tax bill, your tax obligation is going to be less. That's why I love 401ks, 100%.
Got it. All right. And the next question is, what is the max yearly for a mutual fund or IRA?
Mutual funds, there are no maximums. IRAs, they do have maximums. And I don't want to lie. I really don't. I want to say it's something north of 10,000 a year. Something south of 10,000 per year. And that's what your traditional IRA. But what you can do is layer. You can max out your 401k usually. And the other good thing about 401ks with most companies, so you can invest pre-tax. Your money is deferred, and most companies will match up to a certain amount. Like my company matches 6%, matches the first 6% of my investment. So if I invest, if I invest 10%, that first 6%, they're going to match it. And once again, that's just free money. You should absolutely take that. And so, but there is a maximum to how much you can put in a 401k each year. And I have it in my head, but I don't want to throw out the number. I want to say that's somewhere there's a single, and all of this is individual. It's not, Hobson and I don't invest in my 401k together. He has his own and I have my own. But there is a maximum individual limit to the 401k. But what you can do is layer it. Once you max out your 401k, then you can go to your a Roth IRA, and then you can max that out. And so now you've maxed out your retirement contributions and your tax advantage contributions. But do note that Roth IRAs have income limits. So once you hit a certain income level, you can't participate in a Roth IRA. So you have to start using other type vehicles.
All right, great. Thank you for that. And then I have another question. Does Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority have a directory of professionals within their organizations that list them by their professions? For example, financial investment counselors and tax specialists, etc. Is this available within their organizations, within the organizations?
Well, we do not have a directory currently that is open to the public. We are working on that within SOZ to have something that's available for us, and obviously we can leverage it to refer people. I do believe our national organization already has something like that in place. And sorors, if I misspeak, by all means, please correct me out there. But it is I do believe is for our organization. But once again, we can refer people out for sure. But I don't know. I'm gonna let you answer for my brother organization.
Yeah, we do have a directory. I know it's working on being updated right now within Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated directory. I know it's something being worked on to enhance it and make it updated, even on a state level as well. So those are things that we are working on and just waiting for those things to trickle down, and each chapter should get information to share with their brothers.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome. Are we?
All right, I have another one for you. So
Okay.
I'm a 1099 employee. Can I set up a 401k? If so, how can I get it started?
Oh, wow. What you would do is set up a SEP, which is not a 401k is employer sponsored. And so meaning, meaning it's employer sponsored. Since you work for yourself, you could set up that SEP document that I talked about. And it's SEP. So just Google that, but you can set that up, and based on your earnings and your tax returns, you'll kind of detail out how much you make and how much you spend. And based on what you have left over, you can contribute a portion of that to a SEP, and you get those same benefits as a 401k and a 403b.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, and then the next question, can you speak about the 529 plan?
Oh gosh, I'm such a fan of 529s. I'm such a fan of 529s. We told you that, like I said, when Hobby was born, we started with him, but we eventually graduated to the kids having mutual funds, and then we started doing 529s. I think Malcolm, that's all he had. But 529s are a great savings tool. It is after tax contribution, so it's basically the money you get in your paycheck or however you get your money. And you would invest it. Now that these are state-sponsored plans, and the beauty of these plans is you could invest in Georgia's 529 plan, but you can also invest in Arizona's 529 plan or somebody else's 529 plan. So some other states' 529 plans. So some of them have a few more, maybe slightly more benefits in terms of contributions, in terms of reporting, in terms of what they allow. And so doing your research around that may be important. We personally put all our ours in Georgia's. It was perfectly fine for us. It gave us what we needed. And the beauty of it is those funds, you're investing for your kids' education. But let's just say, because we didn't know that 2 of our kids were going to get a full ride. I didn't know that, but I'm blessed, and that's a blessing. But we wanted to be prepared just in case they didn't. But it's not just for tuition. It can be any educational expense that you can take that money out and not have to pay taxes on it. So we were able to use that for their their flights home. We were able to use that for You know, if they needed some additional training or tutors or different things, we were able to use that for that. We was able to use it for equipment, books, any number of school-related items, we were able to use that for. And then guess what? If we don't use all of it, we can if I hold on to that and my kids are like, I'm done with school, that can become part of my estate that will be willed to them. And they get to, and once again, all of that, as long as they are not taking that out, that's tax deferred. Or if they take it out, you know, by the time I guess I'm 65 or whenever, well, I should say when I'm 65, because that doesn't make sense. But if I decide to take it out when I'm 65 and use it, guess what? I'm gonna be taxed at a much lower rate than I would be today, you know, or if I was at 23 or something like that. So there, I still get that benefit if I don't. But guess what? If my kids have kids, I can use those funds for those kids. So you can transfer those dollars to someone else in your family for educational purposes. So 529s are the best. I love them. Just the flexibility of them.
All right, awesome. Well, that's all the questions that we have in the chat right now. I don't know if you want to do a wrap up, and then I definitely want to thank some people on the call. So I don't know.
You know, I think, you know, I just want to say thank you once again to Kappa Alpha Sigma for inviting me. Thank you, Andre, for you know, boxing me in and making me give you a date. Thank you, Hobson, I'm sure, for, you know, saying, hey, she might have a little bit of knowledge that may be beneficial. And once again, thank you to all of you who decided to join, who stood with me. I hope this was beneficial. I hope you learned a little bit. I'm always around. You can find me on social media. It's usually my name. More than happy to help, answer any questions after this. Like I said, I think when we know better, we do better. And I think that we have more choices than we realize. And this information, once again, I know it, but it's out there, and I'm more than happy to help you navigate. So thank you once again, Brother Andre. I appreciate it.
No, we really appreciate you, and thank you for sharing your nuggets with us. I think we're all better because of it now, and looking forward to looking into some of the information that you shared and seeing how I can grow some of my money and protect it as well. So thank you for that. So I know before I go on, I'm thanking everyone. I see our president is on the call. I don't know if he has time to talk. He might be at work. But Brother Phillips, did you want to welcome or say hi to everyone on the call?
Yes, I want to thank everyone that came out. Soror McCain, thank you so much. All of the information that you gave was needed, especially for our community, and for you to uplift not only us, but our children, and giving us plans for our children, our children's children. I ain't got those yet, but I know a lot of people on here do. So I just want to say thank you so much. And Brother Blue, another great program. I'm proud of you, bro.
All right, thank you, Brother President. Then we also have the State Director of Bigger and Better Business from Florida. Brother Rose, do you want to be able to greet everyone, or do you have a second?
Yes, Brother Blue. Like I said, man, I'm so impressed with you for the work that you're doing down in Georgia, man. It was unsaid that it is great things that you're doing. I bring greetings on behalf of the State of Florida Director and the State of Florida Board. This is a great workshop, and Georgia, you are doing your thing, and your chapter is kicking it, man. It's kicking it, man. I really appreciate it. And also, sorry that did the presentation, did a great presentation, and Florida will be reaching out to you. This is something I think that we all should know. So very, very good workshop. Thank you, Brother Blue.
All right, thank you, Brother Rose, and thank you, the State of Florida, for being on the call. Then also just want to thank all of the sorors from Sigma, Omicron, Zeta, all the brothers from Kappa Alpha Sigma, the Blue and White family. I also see a couple AKAs on the call, so welcome to the D9 the whole D9 family. I see my buddy, that's a Kappa, on the call as well, and the Delta. So I just want to thank you all for being on this call. I think it was some great, I know it was some great information. And that's all I have. I see a lot of thank yous in the chat, Soror McCain. So I just want to say thank you once again for the knowledge that you shared. And I'm looking forward to even maybe doing a part 2 of this, because I think there's so much information you weren't even able to tap into because it's just so much. and I'm really looking forward to what we can possibly do next. So thank you very much. And if anyone have any questions, you could come off of mute real quick and we can end it that way. If not, we'll be ending the call.
Hey, Brother Blue.
Yes.
I just wanted to comment and say that, this was a fantastic workshop to get the conversation started. Obviously, if you join the call expecting that you would leave this call with a magic answer for how to get rich, you might feel a little bit like, okay, I'm not quite there yet. But, if you use this information to kind of get started and start heading down a road in a direction towards building wealth, then I think, there was a lot of information shared that can help you with that journey. But obviously, it will take more research and more conversations and more, hopefully, of us working together to get to that goal. So I just want to say thank you to the love of my life for helping us get there. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Brother McCain. And like you just said, she really gave us some nuggets to really start expanding our own knowledge of some of the things that she shared. As I hope everyone was able to use the QR code to get the dFree information. I think that's a lot of great information. I was able to get that as well. So that's all I have. So I want to thank everyone once again for the call, and everyone have a great evening.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Good
All right,
night.
brothers. Good night.